2 years into my civil engineering degree, I decided to quit and go and do personal training. And obviously my parents weren't very happy. So I made a bet with them. And I said, if I'm not making triple what an engineer makes in 2 years out of uni, I will go back to engineering. And well, I'm talking to you right now as an owner of a gym. So you can tell how that story went. This video is why I decided to do that, some lessons that I learned and what I would do if I was quitting my job again. So let's get right into it. So let me tell you the full story. So again, all my life, I was good at maths and physics, and I was always drawing as a kid. I used to love buildings and architecture. And I went to a really, really good school. I was one of the last boys to get into my school, and kind of struggled through school, being honest. I had to revise a lot just to keep up with everyone else. And I got through to the end of school and I got into Bath University to do engineering because that was the next natural path for me. And I got to university, I got going and I hated it. I went to a few lectures and I was like, what is this? I've always been quite a person of like, I like making stuff. I like building things, which by the way, being self-employed and being an entrepreneur is the absolute epitome of this. You're literally building things and doing what an engineer does, just in a different way. Anyway, when I got to uni, it was all Euro codes, which essentially is the codes that the engineering government almost gives you of what you have to do. And there was no creativity. And I was like, if I'm ever gonna have to be creative, it's gonna be in like 5 to 10 years when they might give me a little bit of that. So I was totally bummed out. And what I started doing was I just went to none of my lectures. Luckily, they were all filmed. So what I did is I spent the whole time in the gym and in the powerlifting team. I got into rowing. I wasn't really much of a social guy. I drank maybe the first few months of first year and I haven't drank since then. And I started uni when I was 18 and I'm now 28. So I probably haven't drank in 10 years. And I didn't drink at all. I barely went out. I got it out all my system and I was like, fuck this. I hate this shit. I hated going out, hated pubs, hated drinking, all of that stuff. And I just worked the whole time. And this went on, and obviously first year, if you know, university doesn't really count towards your grade or anything, so I passed that, went to the next year. In between first and second year, I came home to my parents and my dad looked to me and he was like, why don't you just become a personal trainer? And I think for me, it was the permission of my parents saying to me, you can do this thing that unlocked it in my brain. All at this point, I was a first generation university student. My sisters both went to university. My parents didn't. My mum was always like really in on education, go get educated, go to university, get your 2-1. I was like, right, I'm just on this path and I'm gonna get it done. And in between first and second year, when my dad saw how much I was training, he saw my transformation. He was like, well, why don't you just go and do personal training? And that is when I was actually training at Pure Gym down the road. I live in London, it's at Colindale. I was training at Colindale. And in Colindale, in this gym, in this Pure Gym, there was an advertisement, and I can't say the company because they will sue me because of other things that I've said about them. But let's just say a very well-known PT qualification brand. And I used to see it every single day. I was like, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that. And I'd already been training my friends, I'd been training my powerlifting friends, I'd already been teaching my whole family. By teaching, I mean pressuring them into getting into strength training and fitness. Because you know, when you first start, you're like, oh my God, everyone needs to know about this and everyone needs to do it. So, long story short, I sign up for the qualification and I start doing it. And I get my level 2 qualification and I start working in the gym. So Team Bath, I start working in second year of university, and it's so good because like I'm talking to loads of people, I'm doing all the onboardings, and I'm working for £9 an hour at this point, right? £9 an hour. I'm taking all of the shifts, work till 10 p.m, get home at 11 p.m. because Bath University is on this massive fuck off hill, so you have to go back down the hill, right? Got home, and then this is roughly the kind of time when I met Kira as well. So I used to leave our house at like 4:30 to get up to the university at like 5:30 to start work. I had like 3 hours sleep at times. It was really cute. It was a really cool time in my life. And I was doing all this PT stuff, and I was in second year of uni, and I hadn't been to a single lecture. I didn't do any of it. And I came home one day for to see my parents, and at this time I really was getting into self-development world and understanding like Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, all the classic self-help books. And I learned about this thing called Parkinson's Law, which, by the way, if you haven't seen the last video, you should click on that because it talks all about Parkinson's Law. And it's actually a podcast behind the scenes of me and Alex going through this. So it's a really, really cool thing. would click on that and watch that. But essentially, Parkinson's law is similar to the gas law, which is that gas expands to fill its container. Parkinson's law is that work expands to fill the time it's been given to do it. So if I said to Alex right now, this video that we're making right now, it's 11 p.m. I want this done by 12 or you're fired. He'd get it done. It wouldn't be exceptional if it took him, say, 3 hours, but I reckon he'd get it 80% of the way there, right? So that's Parkinson's law. And what I learned was, okay, all of these things that I'm doing with engineering, like I feel like I'm coasting. Like uni wasn't as hard for me as A levels or GCSEs. Like I felt challenged and it felt really hard. And uni wasn't the same. And actually, at this time in second year, my mates were sniffing cocaine off of the kitchen table. They were coming back at 2 a.m. They were drinking and partying, and I was getting up at 5 a.m. to go row in the morning, right? And train hard. I think I was training 24 to 28 hours a week in terms of training. I was around all the right people. I was around people who were taking their life to the next level, rowers, fitness guys, power lifters, and I was also working at the gym, so I could see the potential. And I came back to my parents and I was like, guys, I'm gonna make a bet with you. And that's why it's called the engineering bet, right? Which you can see on our new whiteboard, which I'll be doing some cool videos on soon. I said to them, you know what? I was doing a 5-year degree, so a master's with placement, right? So 3 years of actual university to get bachelor's, 1 year of placement, and then the 5th year was going to be my master's, right? I said to them, if I'm going to take my degree from a 5-year master's with placement to a 3-year bachelor, and I'm just going to get this done. And that leaves me with 2 years, right? So 3 plus 2 is the 5. That leaves me with 2 years out of uni. If I'm not making triple what an engineer makes out of uni, which at the time was about 25, 30 grand, I will go back to engineering. That's a fucking big bet. And my dad was always quite fine with it. My parents had never been super well off, and we've never struggled with money, but we've always been like, I guess, working class, right? But my mum was a bit more like, no, education is very important. You need to do this thing. It's very important, right? That you get this job and you're working on it, get your 2-1. And I wanted to respect on that. So that's why I made that bet. And she could see that I was serious and I actually wanted to do this. And so as soon as I said that to her, guess what? Parkinson's law. Just like Alex, get this video done in the next hour, you're gonna get fired, which I'm not gonna do, by the way. Please don't sue me, Alex. Then like in that same vein, that's exactly what I did with my parents. And my parents said, right, bam, you're committed and you're gonna do this. So guess what I did? I read all the books, I went all in, I studied, I took every onboarding I could. I probably did 1,000 of these onboardings, which by the way, I didn't get paid any extra for. People would have them on the books and everyone would skip them. Like, no, give them to me because it's practice. I'd go all around the gym and I'd be helping people out, watching how they squatted, seeing how they're doing this, giving away things for free, starting up these small classes. And things were just starting to go well. I had a few clients, I was doing a few classes. By the way, classes were £22 an hour. Holy shit, right? £22 an hour. That was like triple what I was making on the front of house. I tried to do as many of those. I took as much on as possible and I just did everything. I was like, oh my God, please give me more and more and more of this. And then lockdown hit and it all went to shit. Luckily, I got put on, what was it called at the time? Furlough. Luckily, I got put on furlough, which by the way was an absolute godsend. So thank you to my gym manager for doing that for me. And it gave me time to really figure things out. And this is when, if you look at the book, which by the way, if you go below, there's 3 links, click on the first one. It's a full map, 5.5 hour video, workbook and book on the 15 stages of the fitness coach. It's completely free. Go get it. It's amazing. I think it's like phase 4, which is be useful, which is when my mindset shifted from I want to quit engineering, I want to get a job, I to wow, I have this opportunity to be really useful. This is an amazing job. And I read all these books, Ego is the Enemy and different things. And it just made me realize I'm in such a privileged position, but the amount you make is directly correlated to the width and depth of people that you help, the value that you give. So people might not like hedge fund managers or stockbrokers and all these people, but they just make more value than you. That's it. They simply just make more value. And so that is it. Fundamentally, I need to make more value for more people, either in width or depth. And so over lockdown, Kira and I were giving away ebooks, we were writing programs, we were doing all this stuff. And then when I came back to lockdown, after lockdown, I gave away free sessions, I gave away all this stuff. And so many things collided. And again, if you do read the book, you'll see that those 15 stages, they were all over the place. But looking back on them, I put them in these 15 stages. I've been able to map them because I could actually see how each thing linked into each other. So don't make my mistakes, basically what I'm saying. But at this point, everything came together and it culminated into things blowing up for me. I was doing 40 hours a week of personal training. I was also doing 20 hours a week of online coaching. So my day was actually 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. online classes, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. or it was like 9:30 to 4:30 PT outside in the park. I came back and then from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'd do another set of online classes. Then I'd do programming for my clients. And we were in this tiny little shitty house. God, it was just, I remember it was just after lockdown, it was just absolutely crazy. And then second lockdown hit and we were stuck in that house. But anyway, and you do the maths, I was working Saturdays and Sundays as well. I was on about 130 grand a year, 140 grand a year as a PT at 21. And that was more than triple on Engineer Mix. I went to my parents and by this point they were like, you're doing good. Like they could see the Amazon parcels arriving and they could tell that I was fending for myself, which was amazing. And it's quite funny saying that because right now that is definitely not the situation that I'm in. But this is actually one little side note. I've always known throughout my career that I can always go back to that. It's just as you progress in your career, you just trade things for higher leverage and it takes a longer time. Mm-hmm. So when I started out, I was trading time for money. And as I progressed in my career, I stopped trading time for money because I was just trading money for money. And I could use different forms of leverage, media, code, people, or capital. Those are the 4 levers that you can pull. And a lever, if you have a long enough lever, you can move the world. So as you progress in your career, that's all you need to do. You just have more leverage, right? So I always know that I can go back and do high ticket selling and be on probably 150, 200 grand a year. I can do PT and be minimum 6 figures, especially in London. So I always had this thing on the back of my mind of like, I'm good. Even if this all fails, I can go back and do this, right? But that's just a little side thing, which might, by the way, be the tipping point that helps you to quit your career. You're going to learn more skills doing the new thing and have a better story than you just continuing in what you're doing now. And yeah, and that was essentially the engineer bet, which was I was making triple what an engineer would make in the time it would have taken me for me to start in my old career. And then when you actually look at it, it's the 5-year placement, plus I would have to do another 3 years of experience, then do a chartered engineer exam to then be on 45k a year as an engineer by the age of like 26 or 27. Probably similar to kind of time to what I am now. So think of all the things that I've learned up to this point in business, in life, in entrepreneurship, as opposed to the other thing, which by the way, I'm not knocking anyone who's done that. That was just my choice. So that was the story. Again, in terms of reflection, so there's loads of things I can reflect on there. Number one is I had no idea what I was doing. I was reading all these books, I was all these different things, and this is exactly why we make these videos, because I don't want you to make the same mistakes. I don't care if you give me a penny. I don't give a shit, right? Just go get the free thing. It's down below and there's a whole map. And if it saves you like any heartache or pain, or if it can save you 10 years, then like amazing. That's like the best thing that I could ever think of. Right? So go and get the fucking map. It's in the link description below and join the academy and you can meet loads of cool people and it's all free, right? Just go do it. Like, what are you waiting for? The second thing I guess I learned was Parkinson's law, which was when I gave myself no way out and I made that bet. It wasn't me saying, oh, look at me, I'm going to do this crazy thing. It was more of me saying to myself, this is what I've done. Actually, let me give you a quick story. Alex is, cool if I say this? Yeah. Alex is genius, absolute genius. You've seen the videos he's been making, right? He's absolutely killing it. But Alex's genius can also be his downside, right? And so what we've done is Alex has come to me being like, hey, Ollie, these are the things that I feel I not necessarily lack, but there's my shortcomings, right? And it's funny because you can't ask for someone to be incredible at one thing without having a downside in another thing. Like it's the same side of the same coin. Right? You can't wish for someone to be, for example, me, I'm extremely fast at decision making. I move super quick and I work like a fucking dog. But guess what? I'm probably going to be rude sometimes. I'll probably be a bit ruthless and I probably won't listen to your emotions as much as someone like Kira who's a bit more slow moving, a bit more of the glue, and that's why we work well together. But Alex is the same kind of thing. And so what Alex has done is he's come to me being like, here's how I want you to keep me accountable. And that's almost his version of Parkinson's law, right? Just in a different way. He's saying, these are the things that I know that I struggle with. I want you to keep me accountable to these because I value this goal more than this going wrong in 2 to 3 weeks' time. And that's like the best thing you can ever ask for. And that was me saying that to my parents. I'm like, look, guys, I know you want me to be happy. I know you want me to be doing well. I think this is the best path. Let me just go fucking do this and let me give it a try. And this is me showing you that I'm all in. So I guess that was the second thing that I learned. And in terms of the third thing from this whole story, I think it's sometimes the worst thing you can be in is just unhappy. And this is a hard thing. When the pain of change when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, you'll change. And I think that was what happened for me. Like this has been very painful, changing from someone who identified as engineer, white collar job, one of the best schools in the country, best university courses in the country, to and not to knock any personal trainers or gym owners, but like to a personal trainer, right? But actually, the more and more I've done this world and I've been in this world, I realized that funny how the world is going to be swapping, by the way, in the next 5 years. Blue collar jobs are going to be making much more than white collar jobs. It's going to completely switch. But they're just the same. It's all humans. We have different skills and the skills are valued differently in the marketplace. And that's all it is. And so for me, in terms of like the transition in this, it really helped me of like, no, this is what I want to do and I can see a path. Some people would look at my story and be, oh my God, that's so impulsive. And oh my God, that's so crazy. Nah, I did hundreds, if not thousands of hours of work before I made that choice. And I had so much proof in terms of my own story. I didn't just go, fuck it, I'm gonna be a lawyer, right? And I'm gonna go try and pass the bar. I'm like, no, I have all this proof. People have been asking me about this. I've been working in a gym. Clearly I'm good at this stuff. I reckon I've got a real chance of doing this. And so what would I recommend, number 3, as like if you were thinking of quitting your job? Number 1, I wouldn't necessarily do what I did. I would read the map for the 3rd time now. Why haven't you clicked it? Click the bloody map. I'd read the map and I'd understand what stage you're at. You can actually, on the next page, you can click find my stage and it will show you what stage you're at and it will give you all the advice of what to do on that stage. But what I would do is I would figure out your freedom number. Your freedom number is the number that you need to be making every single month, that if you made that, you wouldn't go into debt, right? So think of, and I'm not saying like you living in a lavish rental with having Starbucks out every single day is your freedom number. No, you're probably gonna have to have some fucking bean coffee, right? Or instant coffee, and you probably have to cut and scrimp and save, right? But would you rather be cutting and scrimping and saving and getting your freedom number down so that you can switch sooner, or living a more lavish life but being miserable, right? It's your choice. So what you do is you cut your number down as low as possible, and then you can go, oh, okay, I need to make, I think for me, like I was living in uni accommodation, which was £290 a month. It was illegal actually, because it was so small. £290 a month, and I just shopped at Lidl, and I wore the same clothes every single day, and I would barely go out and travel anywhere. So my literal freedom number was like 500 quid a month. So I knew, right, £9 an hour, 500, that's 54 hours of work per month, which translates to about 11, 12 hours or 13 hours a week. As long as I'm doing 13 hours of £9 an hour work, I'm good, right? So I could do that in second year of uni, and I could make all the bets that I wanted to in the world because I knew that I didn't have to ask my parents for money or go and get a loan or go into debt, because I was good, because I brought my expenses down so low. And so what I'd recommend is get clear. Maybe you have kids, maybe you're married, Maybe you have a mortgage and maybe you're not in the position that I'm in, right? If you are, there is no excuse. If you're under 30 and you have no kids and no nothing right now, there is no excuse for you to not go all in and do this right now. But I understand if you have kids, you have a mortgage, it's a lot harder. But still, figure out that number, get direct and be like, okay, cool. So how would I move that around? Okay, I'm gonna charge £50 an hour for personal training, right? Okay, and I need how many hours a week then to pay that weekly? Okay, and then just do the maths. If I get one sign up and I get 2 people coming to me for consultations, one of those will sign up. Okay, so for every 1 sign up, I need 2 consultations, which means I probably need to have 4 phone calls or 5 phone calls with people. In order to get 5 phone calls, I probably need to make 50 pieces of content. So you're telling me I need to make 50 pieces of content to get 1 client, and that's a massive oversimplification of it, right? But start to reverse engineer these numbers out and see what can you do today to get your first client. If I send out 100 messages, right, maybe 10 of those respond to me, maybe 1 of those become a client. So you're telling me, wow, you get 1 personal training client, which might stay with you for a year on average. That's 52 times 50, that's 2.5 grand they're paying you. So you send 100 messages and you make 2.5 grand. You're telling me you're making £25 per message. Sounds pretty good to me. Start doing that kind of maths. Start going, oh my God, wow, that actually translates. So overall, hopefully that helped, right? Hopefully you've seen now that I was on this engineering path. I was all in. I was going to do this thing. But then I started in my hobbies and my passions understanding the world of PT. People started asking me about it. I got permission from the people in my life that were almost funding me in a way to do this and were my authority figures at the time. And I said, I'm gonna do this. I went all in. I wasn't stupid about it, but I was smart. I brought my expenses down. I knew what I needed to do. And all I did, by the way, is I went from £9 an hour work to £22 an hour work to £50 an hour work. Then eventually I started hiring out other people to do that work for me. And I started looking at my calendar and thinking, okay, if I look at my calendar, what things can I ladder out? Okay, cleaning, then front of house, then classes, then managers, then sales, then MD, then operations, and now we're raising money, and now we got more leverage. Now we're getting into media, now we're getting into code, and there's more ways that we can leverage things, and I will keep going up on that ladder until whenever. It's just more and more and more freedom and more leverage per unit time. So hopefully that helped. And yeah, if you haven't downloaded the fucking map, get the map.